Meal kits often market themselves as an easy meal prep solution, but often disappoint with complicated, overlong recipes that aren't worth the effort. Fortunately, Home Chef knows the struggle and delivers fresh, delicious meal kits that respect your time. Home Chef delivers fresh ingredients and chef designed recipes conveniently to your doorstep to simplify your cooking experience. Users of leading meal kits have rated Home Chef #1 in quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 18 free meals plus free dessert for life. And, of course, free shipping on your first box. Go to homechef.com/ratchet. That's homechef.com/ratchet for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. Homechef.com/ratchet. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Every January brings you 365 blank pages waiting to be filled. In 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist, or maybe there's a part of your story you've been wanting to revise. Life isn't about resolutions that fade by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your own life. Think of therapy as your editorial partner, helping you write new chapters and create the meaningful story you deserve to live. You listen to this podcast, so you know I am a huge fan of therapy. I think everyone should have some, even the people that don't think they need it, especially you. You need it the most. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. And you can easily switch therapists anytime at no cost. I love how easy BetterHelp makes it to find therapy everywhere you are. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/ratchet today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. HELP.com/ratchet. The conversations we have on this show really get me thinking. And when I want to dive deeper or level up, I want to hear from the best. Luckily, I can do just that with Masterclass. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. Masterclass is the only streaming platform where you can learn and grow with over 200 of the world's best. For just $10 a month, an annual membership with Masterclass gets you unlimited access to every instructor. And you can access Masterclass on your phone, computer, smart TV, or even audio mode. Use improv to overcome your fears with Amy Poehler, or turn your passion into achievements with cultural icon Martha Stewart. And the classes really make a difference. 88% of members feel that Masterclass has made a positive impact on their life. I watched the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix, and I just wanted more and more Martha Stewart. Masterclass had me covered. Martha's Masterclass will teach you how to think outside the box and level up. I loved it. Masterclass is offering an exclusive offer for Ratchet and Respectable listeners at masterclass.com/ratchet. Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/ratchet. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/ratchet. Masterclass.com/ratchet. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable. Happy New Year! I mean, we're like a week into the new year, but that's not too late to wish people Happy New Year, is it? I don't think so. I think if you haven't talked to someone yet in the new year, you can still wish them a new year up until like the 15th, and then maybe it's like overkill. I hope you had a great new year. I hope you had some celebrations, or you just laid in bed and did nothing. That's what I did for the new year. I didn't travel. I had major FOMO. I was looking at my friends in Ghana celebrating the new year, my friends in South Africa, and I was like, why am I here? I did book a trip. I couldn't figure out how to celebrate the 500th episode of the show. I was going to do like a dinner with some friends and then like a champagne toast, but then it was over the holidays. and everyone was traveling or they were already like booked and busy with other holiday parties. We were trying to put something together last minute and it just wasn't coming together. So I was like, well, I'm doing something to celebrate. So I just booked a trip. That's a good option, right? I just need the moment acknowledged in some way is all. I'm back in the gym, like heavy. And I did not wait until the first. I started in December because I was like, there's no time like the present. I can finally lift more than 12 pounds at a time. I'm up to 15. I'm super proud of myself. And I'm back on the Stairmaster. I almost died. And I'm not back to where I used to be, but I'm back. And that counts for something. I'm proud of it. We have much ground to cover since the last time we spoke. So much has happened. I mean, it's been 2 weeks. And every single time I go on hiatus, like a bunch of crazy shit happens. Let's start with good Black news, though. Let's start on a positive note. I have a whole list of good Black news in no particular order. Congratulations to Simone Biles. Sports Illustrated named her Sportsperson of the Year. I'm on the SI site now. They describe her as, quote, the most decorated gymnast of all time. She has altered the face of gymnastics, sparked sweeping change across sports, and this year capped it all with an astonishing personal comeback. Remember at the Tokyo Olympics, she got a case of what she called them the twisties, vertigo for gymnasts, essentially. And she withdrew from the event. So people thought that, that's the end of her. And then she quit. She quit gymnastics. She was done. But no. She came back this year in Paris and did what she always does, hence the personal comeback. In Paris, she got 4 medals, women's individual all around, women's vault, and team all around, and then also a silver for the floor exercise, which makes her the most decorated gymnast in history. She has the 11 Olympic medals that I mentioned before, and she also has 30 world championship medals. In more good Black news, President Biden named 19 recipients for the Presidential Medal of Freedom, not to be confused with the Presidential Medal of Honor. That's just for military freedom, is a little bit of everybody, including Denzel Washington, Denzel, and Magic Johnson. I think those are only 2 Black people up there. We're going to talk about some other people. There were some other faves in there. Me and Mom watched it. I was taking my braids out. Those 11 million braids I had in my hair, it took forever to get them out, like a full 10 hours. I should have gone to the shop because I told you, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm taking these out. The day I decided they had to come out was a Saturday. I was not going to the braid shop on a Saturday when everybody and their mama was in there. You know, like when you're over your braids, they have to come out like immediately. It was one of those situations. So the braids are out. But we watched the ceremony. Denzel was so cute when he got his award. He was trying not to cry. He held it together. And I was like, it's okay to shed some tears. It's all right. It doesn't make you less masculine. But he did get overwhelmed with the emotion of, I saw the whole award ceremony. I think Denzel was the only person that hugged President Biden. Like he just got overwhelmed. He turned around and he gave him a great big hug. And I was like, oh, Denzel. I think everything Denzel does is cute though. My dad was like, he ain't have on a tie. And I was like, it's Denzel. He can wear what he want to wear. He been showing up on red carpets in a t-shirt and some running pants. I was like, at least we got an actual jacket and some dress pants. It's progress. He put something on to go to the White House. It wasn't tailored. It's Denzel. I don't care. Magic Johnson pulled out his good suit from his good tailor, though. I did appreciate that. When they were reading Denzel's qualifications, it was so cute because they were like, he's won this and this and this and this. Like they had a whole list and they said, so far, because there's more to come. He was up for a Golden Globe. That didn't happen for him. We'll talk about the Golden Globes in a minute. I really should have cut it off after Denzel didn't win. I was thinking, there's other Black people nominated. Somebody else Black will win, but Zoe Saldana. We'll get to that. He also, I just saw this morning, he got nominated for an NAACP award for Gladiator 2. Award season is literally just beginning. I hope he does get something for Gladiator 2, though. The movie wasn't particularly that great. I rewatched it. I downloaded it on Amazon. And I was like, oh, yeah, I think I was just enamored with Denzel and the CGI. The plot leaves much to be desired. I personally think a Presidential Medal of Freedom tops any Golden Globe, Oscar, or anything. Like, there's one thing to be like, oh, okay, you were good in this film this year, as opposed to, honoring your overarching career. I appreciated he grew his hair out some. Just to be clear, all Denzels are my favorite Denzel, particularly Denzel in The Preacher's Wife Denzel and Mo Better Blues Denzel. Those are probably my favorite Denzels, but I'm not opposed to any version of Denzel. But I do like Denzel with hair more than Denzel without hair. Like when he was doing the red carpet for Gladiator 2. I thought he looked a little ill. I tried not to talk about it publicly, after Chadwick, just be mindful, just keep people in their prayers, hope they're doing all right. But he looks healthy again with hair. He's going to be a minister. I was very mindful in the way I phrased that. He was baptized in December. I don't think that's his first baptism. Remember we read that essay he did for Esquire? And he talked about his faith. I want to say he found Jesus somewhere in the 90s, maybe even the 80s. He talked extensively about his relationship with God, which leads me to believe he was probably baptized a long time ago. But he was definitely baptized, perhaps for the first time, but perhaps again in December. The video was all over social media, and it said he was licensed into the ministry. Not ordained, but licensed. But he could be ordained later because now he's licensed to be a minister. I don't know exactly what that means, but I was like, I would accept a sermon from Denzel. Much to celebrate with Denzel. Let's see who else is on this list. Sometimes we read through lists and be like, nobody black, nobody black. There are also people on this list that aren't black. But despite that, I still am celebrating them. Hillary Rodham Clinton, she was the only person I think that got a standing ovation when she was honored. I'm reading this on whitehouse.gov. It says Secretary Clinton made history many times over decades in public service, including as the first lady elected to the U.S. Senate. After serving as Secretary of State, she became the first woman nominated for president by a major United States political party. Good for Hillary. I like Hillary. Michael J. Fox, he not doing so good. He has Parkinson's disease. We're going to keep him in our prayers. Fannie Lou Hamer, founder of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, she challenged the exclusion of black voices in the political system and laid the groundwork for the 1965 Voting Rights Act. RFK, they kept saying Robert Francis Kennedy, and I was like, you mean Bobby? Nobody ever called him Robert Francis Kennedy. Ralph Lauren, Bill Nye, the science guy. They said William Stanford Nye. I was like, who? Bill Nye, the science guy. George W. Romney. He's deceased, so his son, Mitt Romney, was there to accept the award. They said George W. Romney, and then Mitt stood up, and I was like, wait, Mitt's real name is George? I was so confused. No, George is the daddy, Mitt is the son. Oh, let's see, I'm scrolling through this. Denzel, actor, director, producer, 2 Academy Awards, a Tony Award, 2 Golden Globes, 2016 Cecil B. DeMille Lifetime Achievement Award. Also serves as a national spokesman for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America for over 25 years. Fun fact, I think I'm allowed to talk about this. Davita used to work at Boys and Girls Club. She said they would be trying to ask Denzel to do like a whole bunch of like fancy shit. And he'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. Like they were like, Denzel, we need you to do. And he was like, no, I'm not doing all that. But then they'd ask him like, oh, just come talk to the kids. And he'd be like, okay. Like anything with the kids, he was good to do. Anything that was too fancy, too extra, had to put on a suit, he wasn't really excited about. But anything to do with the kids, he would show up on time enthusiastically and like talk to the babies. That Esquire article that he did, he spoke extensively about like, he wasn't on a great path and his mom got him into Boys and Girls Club and he credits them with changing his direction in life. So, and then Anna Wintour, she took her glasses off. So many people commented on that. Renowned fashion icon who's led Vogue as editor-in-chief since 1988, a champion for philanthropic causes, leading architect behind the annual Met Gala fundraiser, and chief content officer for Condé Nast. Anna Wintour went to, what restaurant was it? It was in Union Market. And the restaurant posted a picture on the page. They were like, oh, Anna Wintour was here last night. And I was looking at the picture and I was like, where? She had, or somebody had photoshopped her face. She's got to be like in her 70s conservatively. They have photoshopped every line, wrinkle, everything out of her face to the point that she looked like a 20-year-old woman. So I'm looking at the photo and I was like, who is Anna Wintour? Like I see the bob. And I was like, but that ain't no damn Anna Wintour, but was. Look, I'm not against the little Photoshop. I'm not against the little, tweaking in real life. We'll talk about that in a little bit from the Golden Globes. Be realistic, though. Like, actually look like some version of yourself within, like, the last 15 years. Like, you want to tweak yourself online. You want to, put some filter on. You want to face tune some things. Like, that's fine. Do what you need to do to feel good about yourself. But, like, be somewhat recognizable. Somewhat. Because at some point, we're going to see you either in person or TV like Anna Wintour. Like, you photoshopped yourself in this photo that you posted online, and then you showed up to an event a day later. You look 25 in one picture. You look your age in the next one. It's not a big deal. It's a minor thing. I'm just saying, fool some of the people some of the time. Not all of the people, not all of the time. Some of the people, some of the time. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Every January brings you 365 blank pages waiting to be filled. In 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist, or maybe there's a part of your story you've been wanting to revise. Life isn't about resolutions that fade by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your own life. Think of therapy as your editorial partner, helping you write new chapters and create the meaningful story you deserve to live. You listen to this podcast, so you know I am a huge fan of therapy. I think everyone should have some, even the people that don't think they need it, especially you. You need it the most. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. And you can easily switch therapists anytime at no cost. I love how easy BetterHelp makes it to find therapy everywhere you are. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/ratchet today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ratchet. The Golden Globes happened. There were a bunch of Black people nominated. We went through the list before our holiday break. Like a bunch of people. Like Jamie Foxx was nominated. Zoe Saldana, she won. Denzel, Cynthia Erivo, Zendaya, Coleman Domingo. I'm reading from a list. I'm on the page for the Pan-African Film Festival. They have all the Black people for certain. Because there was one that I missed. Somebody wrote in and was like, you missed this Black person. And I was like, look, I said the Black people that I am aware are Black. Io Itabiri from The Bear. Chris Bowers, that's who the person wrote in about. He had Best Original Song. Nickel Boys, Best Picture. I didn't realize that was Black. Abbott Elementary was up for something. The Quinta was up for something. Donald Glover, Denzel. The only person that won, at least it was televised, was Zoe Saldana. This is the first time she's won. She got on stage. It was a good speech. It was completely unhinged. She was just emotionally overwhelmed and all over the place. It was a lovely speech. She thanked everybody and their mama. It's fine. I have nothing against Zoe Saldana, although I've seen people online, because, she has this new win, so everybody's talking about her. She's getting a lot of press. And people were like, I'll never forgive you for Nina Simone. She's apologized for Nina Simone. It was absolutely awful. Her in blackface with a prosthetic nose. And then she sang. Zoe Saldana sang Nina Simone songs in that awful, awful film. I saw it. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. As bad as you think it was, it's everything worse. If you haven't seen it, don't waste your time. It's awful. I forgive her though. I like her in Lioness. She's more suited for roles like that. Amelia Perez is the role that she won, is the movie that she won for. I have not seen this movie. I had not heard of this movie until the award show. I know people who have gone and watched it. Some people are like, what is this? It's a musical, I guess. Zoe Saldana raps in Spanish in the film. That's what I heard. I know other people who are watching and are like, this is actually really good. I don't know that I'll ever watch it. I have no intentions to. But, congratulations to Zoe Saldana. I did see that Viola Davis won. Remember we were talking about Denzel at the White House? He won the 2016 Cecil B. DeMille Award. Viola Davis won the same award this year. Wasn't televised, though. I think it was the ceremony the night before the televised Golden Globes. She looked beautiful. She had on pink. She looked really beautiful at the Golden Globe. She had big fluffy hair. I like it when she does the big hair. She had the girls up. She got really, really good boobs. I watched her full speech on YouTube. It was about 15 minutes. If you read her book, remember we did a review of her book when it came out? And people got so mad at me. They were like, Demetria, you did not like the book and you talked so bad about it. I think it would discourage people from reading the book the way that you spoke about it. And I was like, I'm not a publicist. If I read something and I love it, then we'll talk about how much I love it. But if I read something and I don't like it, then we're going to talk about how much I don't like it. It wasn't a book club pick. If I do like a book club pick, it would definitely be something that I enjoy because we're going to talk about it extensively. But like her book was, I think if I recall correctly, my complaint about her book was that it's overkill. She spends like the first hundred and so pages talking about how she was impoverished and she went to school in urine soaked clothes and there were rats crawling on her face when she was trying to go to sleep. And her father was an alcoholic and abusive and, just a really tragic, impoverished scenario, which, that's her story. And that's fine. I'm not saying don't tell it. She just emphasized it over and over and over. And I was like, you could have cut this book by like 75 pages. But like, okay. So she gives this speech, like she's being honored for like this amazing, very prestigious award. And she's presented the award by Meryl Streep, who's like, she loves Meryl Streep. Actually, I would say they love each other. I think that's fair. And she goes on and on about the rats and the poverty and the alcohol abuse. And like she mentioned the rats in her urine stained clothes and the way she used to smell over and over and over. And again, this is your story. I'm not trying to say don't tell your story, but I just think it's interesting. Like everybody gets to choose the narrative that they craft for themselves. Like you don't tell like the whole story. I was born here on this time and I did this and I did that. People don't say every single thing that ever happened to them. They choose a narrative, and these are the things that I would like to share. It's carefully edited. It's carefully curated. How you tell and how you curate your narrative says a lot about who you are or how you want people to perceive who you are. And I just think it's, it's an interesting, is that the best word I can use? I think it's telling of her self-perception that her narrative is consistently, overwhelmingly about the tragedy of her childhood. I'm like, she's well into her, how old is Viola? Like 50? In her 50s? 59. Viola hasn't been impoverished in the last 40 years, but her narrative is still very much suffering, the details of the suffering, like the rats and the urine. I don't think that she realizes that that's not the way she's perceived. She seems just very stuck in this narrative of tragedy. Just something I picked up on. And I was like, this is your like big celebratory moment. Like you don't have to dwell on the worst of your life from literally 40 plus years ago. Were there other highlights? I kind of tuned out like once I saw Black people weren't winning. There were presentations, there was the red carpet. Cynthia was there. Cynthia was in Louis Vuitton. She always looks fucking amazing. However you feel about her, good, bad, or indifferent, the girl put a dress on. She and her stylist, Jason Bolden, they do what they're supposed to do. Zendaya always looks fucking amazing, dressed like Dorothy Dandridge. Kerry Washington, people made fun of her dress. It was like Pepto-Bismol pink. No, because Pepto-Bismol pink is like Barbie pink. It was more hot pink. When I first saw her, I saw the dress and then the black gloves. It was giving Barbie to me. And then I saw the shoes. The shoes were black. I guess they were supposed to match the gloves. They were too big for her feet. And she had on black stockings, which I was like, this is a choice. And then like her hair in the interview, because she's like, talking. So she's still, I thought she had like a 30-inch bust down. And I was like, oh, yes, yes. And I was waiting for her to like, move and like the hair swishes. And then I saw it was like, she has like long hair. If she let it loose, it could have been a bust down. But like she had it in like a low ponytail, but not like at the nape of her neck. Like the ponytail was like, it looked like somebody had like pulled her hair back off her face and then forgot to take the ponytail off. Like it was like past her shoulders where the ponytail thing was holding. And I was like, who? Why? Her face looked nice. I love Carrie. I love all reiterations of Carrie. I didn't care for her dress and accessories in that moment. Morris Chestnut was there. He was dressed in monochrome. Was it orange? Tangerine? Not tangerine. Burnt orange, maybe. He looked nice. I think he said that was like his first award show. And I was like, excuse me? I mean, like not a black situation, but I think he said that was at least his first Golden Globes. And I was like, what? The man stay on TV. But in fairness, because, people were bitching about it online. They were like, Morris Chestnut's been working forever. And then somebody very gently pointed out, and they were like, well, has Morris Chestnut, in film perhaps, but in TV, has he really been in roles that you would consider like, worthy of award recognition? And I was like, but it's Morris Chestnut. A point has been made, I suppose. He wasn't nominated for anything this year. Oh, he's a new show coming on CBS. He stayed with a network job. He might not get awards, but he does get checks. That's half the battle. That's the war right there. But he has a new show on CBS, and then CBS aired the award. So, they invited their talent. He showed up with wife Pam. We don't see wife Pam too much. She looked amazing. And I was like, oh, that's why we don't see him in the streets. Because think about it. You see Morris Chestnut on your screen a lot, but you don't really see like Morris Chestnut just out and about. We don't really see him too much outside of work and like the press runs. But then I saw him with Pam and I was like, oh, that's where you be at. It's a good place for a married man to be who don't want no problems. I was like, oh, Miss Pam is real cute. Is there anybody else? Coleman Domingo. He always looks fabulous. He had like a pussy bow. Instead of a bow tie, it was like a pussy bow. And I was like, I just love him. He could do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. He's growing his hair out some. He was nominated for his role in Sing Sing, which I still have not seen, but I'll watch anything Coleman Domingo is in. Although I did not finish that film or TV series, limited series on Netflix, The Madness. I got like 3 episodes in. It just wasn't moving fast enough for me. And I was like, I love you, Coleman. I've given you my streams. You went to #1 in multiple countries. I've done my part. But the storyline just wasn't meshing well for me. Was there anything else from the Golden Globes we need to talk about? Oh, Demi Moore. I mean, I know not Black, but a fellow Demetria. Demi Moore got this award. She won over... Who did she win over? Cynthia Erivo for Wicked. She got the award and she said that she's never in her 30-year career ever received an award. And she said very early on in her career, somebody told her she makes popcorn movies. And they were like, you can make money and you can put butts in the seats and people come out to watch whatever you're doing. But, just in terms of you being a notable, great actress, like that's just not your role. So she said she never received anything until this award, which I was like, good for you. But also, I feel particular ways about Cynthia, and I say this every time, but she is such a massive talent, one of the most talented people, not just Black people, not just woman people working in Hollywood right now. So, I was rooting for her. She's still Black. I'm going to move on. Going online unprotected is like leaving your door unlocked when you leave the house. Maybe you trust some of your neighbors, but what about the creepy guy down the block? What about delivery drivers and random strangers? Do you trust all of them? Well, with ExpressVPN, you can stay safe online without having to trust any random strangers. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network in cafes, hotels, airports, your online data is not secure. Any hacker on the same network can gain access and steal your personal data, passwords, bank logins, credit card details, and more. And it doesn't take much technical knowledge to hack someone. Just some cheap hardware and a smart 12-year-old could do it. ExpressVPN stops hackers from stealing your data by creating a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. I've used ExpressVPN for years for many reasons. One, because it's super secure. It would take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past ExpressVPN's encryption. And it's easy to use and works on all my devices, phones, laptops, tablets, and more. So I can stay secure on the go. I use ExpressVPN for everything. I'm back in the States, but when I want to watch my shows in other countries, if I want to watch my British shows or my Ghanaian shows or my South African shows, I just use ExpressVPN so I don't miss anything. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/ratchet. That's expressvpn.com/ratchet. And you can get an extra 4 months free. expressvpn.com/ratchet. In better Black news, we need some good news. The NAACP award nominations came out this morning. We're not going to read all the nominations because we know everybody's Black. I'm reading the nominations on Variety. The Piano Lesson, we watched that on Netflix with John David Washington. And then the other Washington son, I don't remember his name. They both got Pauletta's whole face. But he was the director, and then like a daughter was a producer, I think. And Denzel was a producer. But The Piano Lesson has 14 nominations. Malcolm, that's his name, Malcolm Washington. That was a really good film. I watched that a couple times. Fight Night, that was the Will Packer limited series starring Kevin Hart and Don Cheadle and Samuel L. Jackson and Taraji P. Henson and Terrence Howard. Chloe Bailey was in there. Fight Night, The $1 Million Heist, that received 9 nominations. And then Ayo Edebiri from The Bear. I still ain't watched that show. I tried so many times. I cannot get into that pilot episode. The timing has to be right for me. I have to be in the right headspace to love a show. She's the most nominated performer with 5 nominations, including one for directing her first episode. And then she's nominated for guest hosting Saturday Night Live. And then Keke Palmer, she has 4 nominations. One is Entertainer of the Year. And then also for her podcast. We do ads for her podcast on here. Other multiple nominees still reading on Variety include Ajanou Ellis Taylor, Taraji P. Henson, multiple nominations, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing and for The Madness. We just talked about both of those. Kerry Washington for The 688 and Unprisoned. Lupita Nyong'o for A Quiet Place, Day One and Wild Robot. Angela Bassett for 911 and her voiceover role. David Alan Grier, Sanaa Lathan, Cree Summer, and Aaron Pierre. That's the little British cutie. Little, that's not really how I describe him. That's that big British cutie with the bright eyes. People have been talking about him so much. He did that show on Netflix, Rebel Ridge. It was just okay. But he's also the king, Mustafa, the Lion King prequel. I like him lots. I think because of what happened, I'm damaged in this way. I think because of the Jonathan Majors situation, and not just Jonathan Majors, there are other people before him, but guys that like we've invested in because there's an appeal about them. I'm choosing my words carefully. We just all collectively go gaga over them, and then they just do some dumb shit, and it's just such a freaking letdown. I'm still not over the Jonathan Majors thing because I was like his biggest fan. Like I was very all in. So the persona that he was giving. So I'm just a little nervous about fully going over the ledge for Aaron Pierre. I'm like, you're so beautiful and your family is so beautiful. And many people have pointed out online, I don't feel a way about this. We're just going to mention it. His, I don't think it's his current love interest, but his most recent love interest, maybe we could say, is a bland, unmelanated person. I was like, the appeal got to be the unmelanated because it ain't. I'm not trying to be rude about her appearance. And I'm just like, look at you and look at who you loving. Like, it just, it's not about the looks. It's about the personality. It's about the love involved. But I'm like, sir, like this, do you see your mama? Like, do you see your sister? Like, you don't think somebody like, I mean, not some like Oedipus type ish, but like, you don't think that, a beautiful woman with melanin is your future? No? Oh, okay. Different strokes for different folks. I can't just fully embrace. I acknowledge his beauty. I acknowledge the beauty of his beautiful Black family. He hasn't said anything negative about Black women, so I don't have anything against him. I can't fully go over the edge. Still reading on Variety. In music categories, Glorilla received the most nominations with 6, including Outstanding New Artist, followed closely by Doechii. Is that how you pronounce her name? Kendrick Lamar and Usher, who each earned 4 nods. And Beyonce landed 3 nominations. I'm like, the Grammys gave the Black lady, the Grammys are all about music, but still, the Grammys gave the Black lady Beyonce, 11 nominations for the album, and NAACP gave her 3? That's a choice. Congratulations to my dear, dear friend, Tembi Banks. Young, Wild, and Free on BET. I think was she Best Director? That's bae. We used to work in Essence together 50 million years ago. And she packed up her office one day and was like, I'm moving to LA. I'm going to film school. And I was like, you're going to what? You're going to film school in LA? And she was like, I'm out. It worked out. Got a nice husband who's from DC and 2 beautiful babies and a whole NAACP nomination. Congratulations, Tembi. I'm very, very, very happy for you. Like, we won. Sorry to all the other directors on the list. I'm biased, clearly. That's our good Black news. I'm looking at my list. Oh, no. Beyonce Bowl. I think that was good Black news. That happened on Christmas Day. I cried when I watched it. Some people cried like when she was coming through the tunnel and then she hooked up with the other Black girls who sing country and it was like 5 Black women doing a 5-part harmony. And some people were like, it was just too much for me. I just lost it. Like all those Black women at this halftime on Netflix, just looking fabulous and dressed in white and sounding like angels. I made it through that. I made it through the tunnel, out of the tunnel. I made it through Yaya. I made it through seeing Blue. Like, hello, Beyonce. But Blue ain't say Beyonce. She just said hello because she's Black girl. She can't call her mama by her first name. I try it every once in a while. Mom gets so mad at me. She's like, that is not my name for you. And I was like, but that's your name. That is not my name for you. I'm like, okay, all right. I'm not doing this with you today. I wanted a reaction. I'm fine. I got it now. I made it most of the way through. I think it's when like all those people were on the field. It was like 200 people, and they did like the breakdown, like they were doing a line dance, and it was just like all these like mostly black folks on the field in like cowboy hats and like fur pants and just Beyonce. She'd given so much, so much. It was right before everybody lines up, and then Blue is at the end. She throws the peace sign, and then Beyonce's on stage, and then she starts going up in the air. The breakdown where everybody starts dancing on the field before that happens. That's when I started crying. I was so overwhelmed by the blackness of it and the black excellence of it. And like, even the blackness of it, like, I'm not from the deep South. We lived in Houston for a couple years when I was very small, but I didn't pick up on the culture of the South or cowboy culture. And there's things that I recognize, like when she was walking through the tunnel, like you see the Cadillacs and then they have like these things sticking off the wheels from them. And I don't know what that is. Or like the culture of, I don't know, like the carnations on the floats. Like I understand that it's a parade of some sort, but I don't have like a cultural reference for all of these things. I don't come from, well, that's not true. Maryland did do the whole cowboy boots thing for a while, but the cowboy hat culture, like, is not my thing. The rodeo culture is not my thing, but I can appreciate it, but I don't know the ins and outs of it. But I know blackness when I see it, if that makes sense. It was so overwhelmingly black and excellently black, but also hood black, but also country black. Usually when I see Beyonce performances, like everything is excellent and it looks effortless, even when it's like these giant productions. Like it's so well crafted, and there's been so much practice, and there's been so much time and money and effort put into it. Like everything is just seamless. And the halftime performance was absolutely that, but it was one of the few times I've looked at Beyonce's, maybe because it was so many people. Well, at one point, like I froze the screen, and not the first watch, but like the 15th. But I froze the screen and I started counting the number of people on the actual field. There's maybe like 250 people on the field at one point. All these people came together for this purpose. There's nothing accidental about it. Like the result of this amazing excellence is a lot of sacrifice and a lot of hard work and a lot of time spent and a lot of long hours. And it just all came together. And this just, all these black people like on the field at Christmas dressed like furry angels. And then Beyonce goes up in the air and starts singing. It was just all too much for me. I just started crying tears of actual joy. And then midway through the tears of joy, I start crying because like, this was my thought. I'm going to share it and I'm going to try to explain it. And I hope it doesn't sound too crazy, but I was upset that Beyonce had to work this hard. Beyonce, even she says otherwise on Cowboy Carter, but she feels away and rightfully feels away. Her husband definitely feels away. But the last Grammys, Jay-Z gets on the mic and he starts talking about how Beyonce's been nominated for all these Grammys, but she's never won Album of the Year. And at the time, she's one of the most nominated people like ever. Now she is the most nominated people. I think she was tied with Jay-Z at the time. At the time, I think they both been nominated for something like 99 Grammys. How do you recognize her music in every other way, in every other category, but she's never won the most prestigious of the awards, which is Album of the Year? And after that is when she drops Cowboy Carter, which ends up with 11 Grammys and pushes her into the most nominated person ever. Okay. Country awards. Like she makes this country album, obviously Cowboy Carter, Beyonce's version of country, not pure country, but country nonetheless. It sounds country to me. She's nominated for nothing at the CMAs. It's not even like you're nominated, you didn't win. Like she's literally nominated for nothing. Like you get nominated for nothing at the CMAs and you get nominated for 11 Grammys. Is there not like a clear disconnect there? Like something's going on. Like I call it racism. How do you justify that? And Beyonce also spoke about, she made the song, what's the song about her dad? I think she performed it with the Dixie Chicks at the CMAs one year. And she talked about how awful she was treated during that experience. So this Cowboy Carter performance is born out of her mistreatment previously at the CMAs. The performance, the practice of it had to be underway by the time she gets snubbed by the CMAs. But then also Jay-Z's already like got on stage and he was like, you know, she hasn't won Album of the Year and how is this possible? But I feel like all that rejection ends up being motivation for this Cowboy Carter performance on Christmas Day on Netflix that like 28 million people tune in for, right? And if she had done something like this at the CMAs, it would have been a performance out of her own pocket. She wouldn't have got paid. But she does it. She gets paid. Best revenge is your paper. I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, she shouldn't have to work this hard. She shouldn't have to be this excellent where she's like miles ahead of her closest competitor, which is Taylor Swift, if you will, right? There's no one even close to competing with her. And she keeps, I don't know if it's a have, if it's a want, if it's a need, but she keeps doing nonetheless. She keeps doing more and more and just raising the bar higher and higher and higher, even when there's no one even remotely close to her. And she still doesn't get the recognition that she deserves. And it drives her to do more, to do better, to be an even greater talent, to even get more creative, to get outside her boxes. She's clearly going after something. She's clearly in want of something. There's a drive there. Something is pushing and motivating her. And I'm not saying it's all due to racism or shadiness or not being accepted or mistreated, but part of it is, like clearly part of it is. I hate that part of it for her. Does that make sense? I'd also just watched, there's a Michael Jackson documentary by Nelson George about, I want to say, is it the making of Thriller? Thriller is born out of Michael Jackson having to fight with MTV to get his videos played. MTV, when it started, was like, white and rock and racist. And they didn't want to put black people on MTV. The head of, I can't remember what label Michael Jackson was on as a solo artist, but the head of the label had to call over to MTV and was like, hey, we got this whole roster of people. And if you won't play Michael Jackson's music, essentially because he's black, then you can't play any of our other music. We're taking everybody else's videos too. And MTV finally relented and was like, okay, we'll play his videos under the threat of everybody else being removed. But Thriller, so that was the first album. Thriller is born out of Michael Jackson wanting to be the biggest pop star in the world and having something that is so big and so amazing that his talent, that his creativity, that his production, that his voice, that his music cannot be denied by white folks. That's what's in this documentary. But that's how we end up with Thriller. Like, it's a very deliberate, how do I make the best pop album ever produced to get into these spaces that are difficult for me to be in because I'm black. I watched that, and then literally a week later, like, I'm watching Beyonce do this halftime show on Netflix for Christmas. And that's why I burst into tears. And I was like, she's clearly made something that is so good, that is so undeniable. It's amazing. I love it. Cowboy Carter is my favorite Beyonce album, but that it's born out of racism, discrimination, sexism, being slighted, being underappreciated, being denied your rightful entry into places you deserve to be in because you are that good, you are that talented, having to work so damn hard to prove yourself when other people, I mean, she says it in a song, work time and a half for half the pay. America. It was a great performance. Like, she did all that and then went up in the air and started singing. And I was just like, this is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. It was just a really great performance. I have rewatched it. I rewatched it 4 or 5 times on Christmas Day. I just kept like rewinding it. And then Netflix put it out as its own like 13-minute special. And I've watched that thing probably once a day. That who they came to see? Me. I spent 8 easy every day, all day. Just randomly, I would just burst out, who they came to see? Me! And would smack myself in the chest. Because who they came to see? 28 billion people tuned in to see you. It was more than the people that tuned in for the game. Beyonce. I didn't rewatch the Luther documentary. I don't know what's going on with my parents' TV. It was going in and out. But I watched it when I was in South Africa because it was in the theater. I finally just called over to the publicist and was like, hi, I would like to see the Luther documentary. Do you think that might be possible? And she was like, oh, hey, Demetria. So me and Mom watched it in South Africa. I did a review about it when I watched it in South Africa because it was already like in theaters. So I didn't feel bad like doing spoilers and such. And it's not like we don't know Luther's whole life at this point. But one of the things that's happening, like now that, it's more, it was on CNN, so it's accessible to more people. Patti LaBelle, I would say she caught a stray in the Luther documentary. Patti LaBelle infamously went on to Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen and talked about Luther and revealed, like as his friend, they were very close, but revealed, confirmed that he was a gay American. I didn't think that there was any sort of question about that at this point. But Patti LaBelle confirmed it. And in the documentary, most of the quote and unquote experts are Luther's good friends, people he'd been friends with from like junior high school, who worked with him musically over the course of his career, his background singers, things like that. But people who knew him very, very intimately. And they presented the version of Luther that Luther wanted to present. They spoke about things with some behind the scenes detail that Luther had shared publicly, things about his weight, his frustration with not being on the pop charts, things like that, like things that were relatively public. But they didn't comment on his sexuality because that's not something that Luther publicly spoke about during his lifetime. Patty, who, people associate heavily with Luther, is not featured because she's considered to have violated him by outing him after his death. I'm not mad at Patty. I don't think she revealed his sexuality maliciously. I think she's just probably an older person speaking freely. And also, under the guise of like, well, everybody knows at this point, like it's widely accepted that he was, even if he never said it. So I'm not telling you anything new. But I just think because she was a close friend, how do I want to say this? Don't go tell my shit. Like if I didn't tell people things, don't go tell my shit after I pass. I kept things close to the chest for whatever reasons I chose to keep them. You may not understand them. You may not agree with them. But if I didn't go tell this business publicly, then don't you go tell my business publicly. I know I'm not here, but all the more reason. I'm not here to defend myself. I'm not here to, explain. I'm not here to chime in. I didn't want people to know in life. I don't want them to know in death either. As one of my close friends, someone I confide in, someone who's in my inner circle, no, don't go tell my goddamn business. Even if you could look at the album covers and be like, now, Luther, you weren't hiding from anybody. But in the 80s and 90s, we were still pretending. Luther was singing love songs to women, and we just pretended that he was actually into women. We knew. We knew. He didn't want to talk about it, though. So his friends didn't want to talk about it either. Patty was wrong. I'm not saying Patty wasn't wrong. I'm saying I'm not mad at Patty. She shouldn't have done it, but I'm not mad at Patty. But many people are mad at Patty. And then Patty's people have been talking about like people are mad at her and it's not fair. And I'm like, well, I'm reading on Vibe. It says Patti LaBelle, this is the headline, Patti LaBelle reportedly heartbroken over portrayal in Luther Vandross documentary. The article says she's angry and heartbroken after being painted as a villain. She points out that she and Luther have been friends for decades. This talks about page 6. It says Patty had actually sat down for an interview for the documentary. It says she sat with producers for an hour detailing countless stories about her and Vandross's friendship. And her interview was cut from the film after she refused to sign release forms. Well, what did you expect to happen, my love, if you didn't sign the release forms? This is according to page 6. I'm reading it on Vibe, but according to page 6, her interview was cut from the film after she refused to sign release forms when producers denied her request to view the film's final cut. And put this in context of why people are mad at Patty. This is what Luther said about his own sexuality when he was alive. I think this is why people are so upset. Somebody asked him about his sexual orientation, and Luther says, questions about my sexuality, well, I suppose will just always be questions. He continued, let me tell you who I owe answers to. Anytime Black people be like, let me tell you who I owe, that never ends well. He says, what I owe you is my music, my talent, my best effort. That's all. I will neither deny or confirm that any such rumors about personal things like that are true or untrue. I won't give the satisfaction of a denial because that is a submission of sort. I won't even address it. I'll just say, mind your fucking business. That's my response to that. Miss Patty was wrong. Miss Patty should have kept her mouth shut. I'm not mad at her. I'm just saying what she did, not good. Ungood. Very ungood. But it was a wonderful documentary. My mother rewatched it like she didn't watch it already. I was laying in my bed. It was 2:30 in the morning. I had to get up out my bed and go into the kitchen and ask my mother to turn her music down. She was playing Luther on the speakers and was blasting it. And I was like, excuse me, mother ma'am. I had to take the bass out my voice because I don't pay no bills here. Excuse me, mother ma'am. Do you think kindly that you could turn down your Luther? Not just any old music, your Luther. It is 2:30 in the morning. She gonna say to me, it's not that loud. Ma'am, I have come from the back of the house all the way to the kitchen in the house because I can hear your music. Like I went from one side of the house to the other side of the house, not the middle of the house. I am all the way at one end of the house, all the way to the other end of the house. Mother ma'am. You're Luther. Could you turn it down, please? At 2:30 in the morning. She pressed the little key to turn down the volume. She pushed it one time. Ma'am, two more times. Can you push it two more times? Can you actually turn the music down? Oh, Demetria, it's not that loud. I went back to bed. I could still hear it. I just didn't feel like getting out of bed again. Don't you remember? Look, I love Luther as much as the next person. I don't want to hear it at 2:30 in the morning. Not when I'm trying to sleep. It's a lovely documentary. If I can get my signal to work, it's only not working in my room. If I can get the signal to work, I'll watch it again. Speaking of documentaries, there's a Diddy documentary coming down the pipeline. It's kind of like an R. Kelly documentary, but about Diddy, which who didn't see coming. Allegedly, there's a good 5 of these in the works. I think the first one coming down the pipeline, yes, January 14th, so a week from today. It's called Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, 90-minute documentary special. This one is going to air on Peacock. And this one is also featuring Al B. Sure. We talked about Al B. Sure's claims about Diddy. He heavily implied that the reason he was sick, remember he was sick for a while, has something to do with Diddy. And he says, Al B. Sure, the ex-husband of Combs' longtime girlfriend, Kim Porter, they were married? I knew they dated. I knew they were together. They were married? The Hollywood Reporter fact checks hard. I know because I write for them. That's when I was still living in LA. They also have an interview with a former bodyguard, a makeup artist, an intern, a winner on making the band, and a childhood pal. There's also a documentary on Diddy coming from 50 Cent. There's an untitled investigation discovery project. It's from the same people that did Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV. I watched that when I was in South Africa. That was ick. But the same people, they're doing a Diddy project for 2025. I'll be tuned in on the 14th to see what they're talking about, see what Al B. Sure and the intern. I'll be tuned in to see what they got to say. I'm convinced Diddy's never going to trial. I told y'all that because Day resigned, the U.S. attorney who was overseeing it. Diddy and Eric Adams, I don't think those, definitely not Eric Adams. Diddy, 75%, I don't think it's going to happen. Eric Adams, 100%. Trial will never see the light of day. Those charges are going to be dropped. Just watch. Don't believe me, just watch, nigga. I ain't say it yet this episode. What else do we have on our list? Oh, I have Matt Gaetz. That happened right after we went on break. Matt Gaetz, the congressman who was alleged to have been dealing with a 17-year-old girl. The House Ethics Committee found that was not a lie. And he was paying people for sex. Some folks he was paying decent rates to. Other people, it was cheap as fuck. We're not going to read the whole report because it came out so long ago. I think this was like page 2 or 3 of the report. This is the summation of what the committee found. It said from 2017 to 2020, Matt Gaetz regularly paid women for engaging in sexual activity for him. I think that's a little embarrassing. I don't mind people paying for sex. That doesn't bother me. It's technically illegal. This bothers me. In 2017, Representative Gaetz engaged in sexual activity with a 17-year-old girl. It says during the period of 2017 to 2019, i.e., when he was a congressman, he used or possessed illegal drugs, including cocaine and ecstasy, on multiple occasions. They said he accepted gifts, including transportation and lodging, in connection with the 2018 trip to Bahamas in excess of permissible amounts. The gifts thing, if you really hold that against somebody, like the entire house is in violation. It says in 2018, Representative Gaetz arranged for his chief of staff to assist a woman with who he engaged in sexual activity in obtaining a passport, falsely indicating to the U.S. Department of State that she was a constituent. I don't really care. Representative Gaetz knowingly and willfully sought to impede and obstruct the committee's investigation of his conduct. I mean, I probably would too. He has acted in a manner that reflects discreditably upon the House. Well, the 17-year-old girl did that. Everything else, meh. I mean, you should not be doing cocaine and ecstasy. Those things are illegal. Again, you start bringing up violations of people doing drugs, then half of DC must go to jail. Someday, one day, we'll have a conversation about the time shroom parties in DC. or the married people with kids who need a break, so they get high on shrooms because you can time it. They have these fancy dinner parties, and there's a chef that specializes in cooking with shrooms. I tell you, I got stories. I got stories. I don't do drugs, just FYI. No weed, no cocaine, no shrooms. That's not my thing. I'm a drinker. Only tequila for hard liquor. And then you know how I feel about my wine and my sangria, my rosés and things. The investigation from the House Ethics Committee, they included a chart on page 14 that lists the amounts that Matt Gaetz was paying to women. It's a whole chart. There's 12 women on the chart. And then like the dates that the women were paid. So it's woman one. And they note that woman one is a former girlfriend. She received $63,836.58 from 2017 to 2020. And then woman two, $4,189.82. Woman three, $2,651.69. Where's this money coming from? They don't get paid that much. I mean, it's six figures. He got enough to be tricking $63,000 over 3 years on a woman off $170,000 a year? 174. That sounds right to you? $4,000 for woman two during the same time period that he's spending $63,000. These numbers don't add up based on his salary. Does he have some personal wealth that I'm unaware of? Woman four, $6,198. Woman five, $4,025. And again, this is the same time period when he's tricking on old girl he spent $63,000 on. So the whole time he's with woman one, which is the girlfriend, this is 2017 to 2020, all of the women that he spent money on, thousands of dollars to pay for sex, he was in a relationship with the girlfriend. Was this the girlfriend, Nestor's sister? This report didn't say nothing about Nestor. I'm still curious about that. Woman six, $5,251. Here's where I was like, nigga. Woman seven, $200. So I just want to put this in perspective. Woman seven received $200 in 2018. That sounds to me like a one-time encounter. I would like to hope that folks are not selling whole vagina for less than $200. Say $200 is the one-off. So these other women, like woman two or woman four or woman five or woman six, he's spending like between $4,000 and $6,200 on these women. So like, how much sex were you having in addition to the sex with your girlfriend? When did you have time to get any work done when you're doing all this fucking and doing drugs? Like, sir, what kind of freaky deaky stuff he was doing that he needed to pay somebody to do it with him? You're a United States congressman in the District of Columbia. You're like a rock star. You couldn't get no free vagina that wasn't available to you? Oh dear. How unfortunate. Last but not least, we need to talk about this rude mofo. He is the husband of a senator. Deb Fischer is her name. She's from Nebraska. So yesterday, Kamala Harris had a really difficult day. She had to certify, because she's vice president, certify the election results of the election that she lost. That's a lot. And do so additionally on January 6th, which, by the way, do you know Donald Trump referred to January 6th as peaceful? And I was like, yo, like people like literally died. Like, you know that we watched that live on CNN and like there are documentaries, there are videos, like you can see the violence. Like you can see people breaking windows. You can see people like crushing a police officer with a door. You can hear him yelling. Like you can see people trying to fight the police, not trying to, you can see people fighting the police with flagpoles. You can see people being maced or pepper sprayed or bear sprayed, all of that. Like it was extraordinarily violent. And somehow, like despite literally evidence on video, Trump and other MAGA people are reframing, lying, gaslighting. I don't even know the proper word for that. Just straight up lying, essentially. Like, oh no, it was peaceful. And I'm like, wait, what? And I said as much under a post. And I was like, yo, you can't call it peaceful when people literally died. Some bunch of MAGA people started responding to me and they were like, only one person died and she was killed by a Black Lives Matter terrorist or something like that. And I was like, you talking about the white lady who was trespassing in the Capitol while attempting to overthrow the government? and tried to climb through a broken window with a police officer on the other side telling her to stop and refused to stop and then was shot because of that. Her? She has been reframed as a patriot who was killed by a Black Lives Matter terrorist. And I was like, you people are lying liars who lie, who are also batshit crazy. The anniversary of that day is the day that Kamala Harris has to certify her own loss to Donald Trump in the same room with the same people who are characterizing the terror of that day as this, it was fine. Everything was fine. It was fine. It was peaceful. As part of this ceremony, she has to swear in Senator Deb Fischer. And Deb Fischer has a husband named Bruce Fisher. Kamala Harris shakes Deb's hand, and then she goes to shake the husband's hand. And this is, all on a platform in front of a bunch of people. This is a formal event. She is acting in her capacity as Vice President of the United States, and he refuses to shake her hand. It's such an ugly, disgusting moment. And she's taken aback for a minute, and then it hits her that, like, this mofo is really doing this shit. And so she pulls it together and she kind of does like a smirk smile. And, then she poses for the camera. They all take pictures. His wife looks borderline mortified. He looks content, no worries, unbothered, very pleased with his decision to, I would say, embarrass himself and his family in front of the vice president, in front of whatever audience is watching, but also so nation worldwide. So everyone is seeing this. In his attempt to, I don't know, snub Kamala Harris, no one's talking about his wife being sworn in. No one's talking about her policies as senator from Nebraska. Everyone is just like shaming the fuck out of him because, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, are you that much of a raging racist? Answer, yes. That you can't shake the hand of the vice president of the United States? Has she done something so insidious? Like, did she attempt a coup of the United States government and break into the Capitol and literally shit and smear it on the walls? Not exaggerating, that actually happened, on some animal type shit where you're just like, I'm disgusted by you. I can't believe you would do something like that. Like, what has Kamala Harris done that is so awful that you can't shake her hand during a ceremonial event? Did like 1 million people die from COVID on her watch? Did she tell people to inject bleach? Did she call countries with Black and brown people like shithole countries? Did she put children in cages? I can't make sense of it, but that's what he did. And then his wife's page, at least on Instagram, but I imagine all her social media profiles are just lit up with people shaming her, talking about put a leash on your husband. Do you share your husband's views? Like, are you also a racist? Or, pointing out that her husband, I don't know how old the man was. People pointed out, they were like, yo, you got like 2 summers left, and this is how you choose to spend them, being a racist. Remember I said that about the guy I ran into in South Africa, in Cape Town? It was an old white man, like in a wheelchair, and he had on like a MAGA hat. And I was like, you literally got on a plane and flew to the other side of Earth to put a hat on to announce to everyone that you're a racist. You got 2 summers left, and this is how you want to spend them. Okay. I was so embarrassed is not the word. Disgusted. Just absolutely disgusted. And like, look, I voted for Kamala Harris. I very much wanted Kamala Harris to win. I think she would have been a great president. And I know for sure she would have been better than whatever hell is about to be unleashed upon us on January 20th. But there is a part of me that actually, like, for her own sake and probably the collective sanity of Black women, it's maybe for the best that she didn't win and she wasn't subjected to this bullshit. I mean, obviously, I'm not certifying election. Obviously, I'm not like swearing somebody in. But just to see that massive disrespect, the casualness of it, the unbotheredness of him, the entitlement for him to just do it and not give a fuck. It would have been that level of disrespect on a daily basis. Kind of like what the Obamas received, but worse. Same thing with like Beyonce. It really hurt me to see her have to be the better person and to put on a smile and pretend everything was okay in the face of something like that. It's asking far too much of Black folk. Like, we do it. We give 200%. We do, and again, as Beyonce said, time and a half for half the pay. We put the smile on. We pretend everything's okay. We keep the decorum. We keep it loose. We keep it light. We de-escalate. We do all of those things. And like, we shouldn't have to. Like, that really should have been a straight Worldstar type moment. And she smiled. And she acted presidential. And she didn't make a scene. She kept it cute. And I hate that for her. I hate that for us. There's more. There's always more. And we ain't going to get to it today. I'm working on our book club. Just FYI, I do this every year at the beginning of the year. I'm going to keep trying until we actually get it done. This time I'm committing, I think, to 6 months of the book club. I have a list of books, authors that I am interested in. So I'm working on that. There's some other stuff, but I ain't talking about shit till it's actually done. This is almost done, so I can talk about it. It's a go. All right. So we'll talk again on Friday. Okay. Bye. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Every January brings you 365 blank pages waiting to be filled. In 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist, or maybe there's a part of your story you've been wanting to revise. Life isn't about resolutions that fade by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your own life. Think of therapy as your editorial partner, helping you write new chapters and create the meaningful story you deserve to live. You listen to this podcast, so you know I am a huge fan of therapy. I think everyone should have some, even the people that don't think they need it, especially you. You need it the most. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. And you can easily switch therapists anytime at no cost. I love how easy BetterHelp makes it to find therapy everywhere you are. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/ratchet today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ratchet.